Okay, good morning ladies and gentlemen. We've had a resounding call to action and now let's move on to the details, practicalities. My theme is legal personality for nature as a concept for implementing rights of nature in law. And my outline is basically this. Firstly, the usual introduction, but then the concept of personality. What are we actually talking about? And this is an important issue. And then legal personality for nature. What is nature? And of course, what is legal personality? And then this idea that rights, we've heard about the Universal Declaration of Rights, they vest usually in people. So we need to explore that, and we need to explore the vesting of rights in legal persons. And legal persons act through representatives, and we find them throughout all forms of law. And we can see with this concept as nature being a participant and a stakeholder, and my argument is that this helps efficiency. And my concept is an overall framework to embed rights of nature. So we start with our Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, which you heard about yesterday. This proposes rights for nature, but how do we fit them into a legal system? That is the problem. We need to analyze those rights. They can be perceived as being a bit vague from a legal point of view, but we need to explore them for detail. We can also say, well, you have rights for some, but that means duties and obligations for others. So we can say we humans have obligations. That's fine, but the argument is that approach is not working. So we're also saying environmental law has had lots of successes, but we're now saying we need to move on. It's tackling individual issues, but not the totality. And the argument is we need to think of ecological law, and this is the way we want to go. And one element of this is thinking of nature, elements of nature, as a legal person. So we start with the concept of legal personality. Human beings are persons, physical, we have mass, we're living, we have needs, we have interests, and we like to protect them and further them. We organize ourselves collectively, socially, around tasks, activities, funds and money. And the law helps us do these things. One of the ways the law does it is the concept of legal person, which has been around already for quite a long time. This is a very useful concept. We've benefited a lot, but we have to bear in mind it's a legal fiction. It's a construct of the law. You cannot actually touch a legal person as such. It's a semiotic concept, if you like. It's in the mind. So, but it helps us to organize our things in many, many ways. And in effect, the law says legal person is like a physical person in many ways. So it can sue, it can be sued, it can act and do its business. But we compare that with nature. It's physical, it's living, it has mass, but it's not a person. So we can say, isn't that strange? Something which is in the mind has legal personality, something which is solid and physical doesn't. We can ponder that. So we now have the situation, there have been developments, we have court decisions in various countries, New Zealand, India, and we've also got new legislation coming from New Zealand, which is very interesting because they have thought through many of the issues. They have had to resolve a problem between, if you like, the colonial, the Europeans and the First Nation Maori people, and there were land disputes which have been going on for a long time. They have found a settlement. Part of the settlement is to take on board Maori culture, Maori ways of thinking, and the concept of the river as being part of the iwi and as requiring a legal personality. And so they have done a lot of thinking of this, and it's a law which merits study. But what they've done is they've shown the concept is feasible. It is possible to do it. It's up to us now to say, well, what do we take from that? What can we do with it? And how can we move on? And from a personal point of view, I wrote an article. We had a visit to a mountain in Scotland with a local group of wild lawyers. I was asked to write an article. I did, and we asked the question, does the mountain have personality? The people there said, yes, it does have personality. So we said, does it have legal personality? And we started reflecting on that. I wrote a little article, it then was picked up in a newspaper, and there was a radio discussion immediately the following Monday, and nearly another one the same week. So the public is interested. This is a topic which attracts interest, and that is quite an important message. So we have the situation, we come back to rights. What are rights? Our Universal Declaration proposes rights. Generally, they vest in persons and legal persons. They're a form of property. They give entitlement and benefits. They allow the owner to take initiatives, to be proactive as well as defensive. And it means duties and obligations on others to respect those rights. And they're all present in a legal person. So if nature becomes a legal person, it is able to defend its interests and to take initiatives. And it also has a legal owner for the rights which are being invested. So they become real, they become effective, and they're not simply abstract. And we're in the environment where we think that many of these ideas about rights for nature should be there, but they're largely abstract, they're not yet effective. So it then becomes possible to enforce directly. And the important thing is that legal persons have representatives. Every company acts through its authorized agents. This is normal. But the legal person itself cannot appear. The representatives do. Now, nature, if it's a legal person, must also have representatives. And there's another dimension I like to bring in, and this is the concept of language, because nature has its own methods of communication, which scientists are telling us about. If you like, it has its own language. We humans have our own languages, and we need a translation. We need an interpretation between the language of nature and human language in both directions. So the representatives have also this role of communication. And we can extend the idea, for example, to unborn babies and others who are not physically present to speak, but they also have representatives. So persons are present in all forms of law, and here the basic idea is that one would say, we're not just talking about environmental law, we're not just talking about ecological law, but we're taking this concept of person and we're permeating, reviewing all our legal systems, all levels, to see whether there are effects, whether the nature viewpoint means we should be rethinking what we've already done. And I would argue that, for example, the law of ecocide, the crime of ecocide, which we think is very important, can also find its place within this structure. And my view is that healthy ecology means healthy life for humans and means, in turn, a sustainable economy. So I see, if you like, a virtuous circle coming into creation, and I also see a link with the human rights. Okay, so just coming towards the end, I see this as being nature as a participant and as a stakeholder, which gives us efficiency. And also I see this as part of a framework in which we are embedding rights of nature. The rights of nature to be respected, representatives, legal personality, giving rise to effects, and this, in a nutshell, is the starting point for what is in fact a very big program of research which one would need to undertake. But we lawyers are imaginative and creative, and I'm sure we'll come up with ideas. So this is my conclusion, really just a summary of what I've already said. I think we need to rethink, look at the whole picture, and this approach allows us to include the externalities, because the third person element can be applied to nature, can be brought within the decision-making process. Nature becomes a stakeholder acting through representatives at all levels. It has its needs and interests protected. The representatives translate and interpret. This leads to greater efficiency, and I think it also leads to better justice. So that's the end of my presentation, but it's also the beginning, and as I say, we can have a future if we want. Thank you very much.